Welcome to the show. Before I introduce Dr. Edward Group, I have a special gift for everyone. Are you ready to take your health to the highest level? I mean the highest level. Are you ready to break away from the majority's way of healing? We're going to unleash the Ultimate Fasting Guide, March the 29th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So do not miss this life-changing, life-saving show. And to bring it all together, on April Fool's Day, no longer be fooled, schooled, or ruled. Make sure you tune in on April 1st for the Ultimate Fasting Guide and the Perfect Day Guide for the Perfect Life Q&A. Listen, all your questions matter. You matter. And until you matter, how will you ever become the light for your family? Now, I would like to introduce a real seasoned professional and my dear friend.
Thank you so much for having me on. Darrell, you've been around for a long time too, and I highly admire everything that you're doing. 20 years ago, when I was part of a research team, we were hired to go look when MD Anderson was bringing in complementary medicine. We were hired to find all the alternative methods for cancer. That was when Burton Goldberg was around and there was no internet. And that's when the Cancer Control Society was around with Lorraine Rosenthal. And we had to literally travel and go underground and talk to different doctors and find out what they were doing. And after reviewing all this and putting our research together, we initially our job was to present natural remedies and natural cures for cancer. But what we found out is the doctors that were the most successful were addressing the root cause of the cancer. And we found that the root cause not only was what was causing cancer, but was causing all degenerative disease. And that was an accumulation of chemicals and toxins in the food, in the air, in the water. But not only that, something that you've touched on a lot is emotions, the ability for us to self-love ourselves, why we are being programmed. I mean, that got really, really deep, really fast. But I, like you, also believe and teach that we all have a self-healing mechanism. We all have the ability to heal ourselves. I used to have 600 different supplements because I was taught the same way, that someone comes in naturopathic school, chiropractic school, all these natural schools, they still teach to treat the symptoms. If someone comes in with a headache, give them white willow bark, or if someone has digestive issues, give them psyllium husk. They're not addressing the root cause of why they have those issues to begin with. And that's why you being Doc of Detox and me specializing in detoxification and cleansing, I feel like there's a simplicity aspect to healing. And when you reduce the toxic load and you get back to nature and you get back to simplicity, the body is able to heal itself from any degenerative illness that you may suffer from.
Absolutely. And you know what? You just hit it on the head. Okay? The human body is complexed in the way that it is a self-serving, self-thinking mechanism that will heal itself. And also, in reality, health and healing are simplistic. And that is where everybody's been fooled, ruled, and schooled in believing that they don't have the brains, they don't have the power, and I'm not going to touch on this, but a lot of people believe they don't deserve to be healed. And I think that comes from rooted way down in religious beliefs. But I want to go back about 2 or 3 minutes ago, where you were stating that you had to go underground 20 years ago to find out what these doctors were doing in the world of natural health. Look at how we all went around hiding like underground tunnels, trying to get the word out, but not be able to do it. You know what? I want to say something, and I want to give tribute to where I met you, Dr. Group, and that's at the TTAC with Ty Bollinger and Charlene Bollinger. Tell me, there's two people that have actually brought one ingredient to the forefront, and that is the removal of fear. The removal of fear with practitioners to start speaking their truth and coming from their heart, instead of thinking that if we speak the truth and we give people what they need, that we're going to be taken down. You know, everything is about numbers, isn't it? Like, you know, you talk about fasting, and fasting's such a great healer, and people, the only reason why people aren't embracing it yet, but they will, because a lot of people are finding themselves at the cliff. And when they do, you know, you can either learn through knowledge or you can learn through crisis.
Well, we definitely have the internet to thank for that. And we have people that are becoming more educated and more educated, because back then, if the doctors spoke out about it, no one really knew about it, and the doctors could be taken care of via suicide or some other different form. And we both know of doctors that have been harassed. My clinic was shut down and raided by the FDA in 1999 and 2000. The FDA still comes in my office probably every 6 months. I've been on the watch list, probably just the same with you as well. Anybody that's actually doing that. But when you have the critical mass and that we're reaching, and you have people that are learning now, because I lost, like Ty, I lost both of my mom and my dad to cancer when I was in my 20s. That was before I knew a lot of information. I was actually in the process of researching natural remedies for cancer. And then I was chosen to be on the Royal Rife research team in around year 2000 with Barry Lyons, who wrote the book, The Cancer Cure That Worked. And I actually inherited all of the lab material, the original Rife material, from one of the other guys that was on the Rife research team, and recently just donated it to Steve Ross at the World Research Foundation. So, but all of that information and all of now we have the ability to put all that information out there. I mean, there was a guy actually talking about fasting, one of the guys that's written books, and you're starting to see more of these books come into play, because Darrell, all we're doing when you look at the simplicity of healing is doing what's been written about for 3,000 and 5,000 years ago, where you really only need to understand who you are, to become spiritual, to better yourself every day, to realize what love is all about, self-love and giving love to everybody else. And in reality, you really only need water, good, clean oxygen and air to breathe, clean food to eat, and, sunlight, to heal itself. I mean, that was the method before when we had all of those, just not even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, in the 1900s, Arnold Ehret, who's a great researcher on fasting, who wrote many books on diet and detoxification and fruitarianism and health and longevity. He knew the benefits of water-only fasting, and he even locked himself in a sealed glass cell with notary publics in the presence of 2 physicians, and he stayed in that cell under observation for 49 days and nights with nothing but water. And when his fast ended, he said that in all of his research leading up to that, one of his main focuses that he talks about in his books is that humans are dying from the energy it takes to digest 10 times the amount of food as our systems need and can handle. And basically, he said that humans are the sickest animals on earth, and that nobody's violated the laws of food as much as we have. And that was actually planned by the big food and agricultural companies, years ago, to try to convince us that we needed to eat more and needed to eat more and needed to eat more,
but
and provide us with the toxins in the processed foods and the microwaves and all the other stuff that's been and advertised on and been put into our system, into our thinking, through the media and in our perception that if we don't eat, something's going to happen to us.
Well, we have to, you're right. And we have to dig a little deeper, because actually the food corporations are the ones that promoted this. I understand that. But the thing is if we dig a little deeper, we're going to find out that actually who is really behind this is the pharmaceutical corporations, because if they can get us to eat too much and too much of the wrong thing, that's when it'll all pay off. I mean, you can put the chemicals into the food to poison us, and then use poisons to try to dumb down and dull the pain that they created by doing it. So, It's actually, first you poison yourself and you create the inflammation, and then you take inflammatories to dull down the inflammation. But even though you're not feeling it, it's still going on. So it's burning you up like a fire anyways. It's just like somebody putting their hand on the burner. They can't smell the smoke, they can't see the smoke, and they can't feel the pain. And then the hand's still going to burn.
Exactly, exactly. If you really take a look at that, was very intriguing to me reading all of these old books. I spent probably 3 or 4 years trying to gather as much information as I could on fasting, went to different libraries all over the world, tried to pull it. When the AMA started burning all of the books, natural health books, Shelton's books, and all these things in the 1900s, at the same time, they closed down all the mineral springs and spas. Remember, just not, the Roman baths back in Rome and
Yeah.
all of these waters and springs and spas that were all over the place. People would go to and drink the water. And a lot of them would stay there for 7 days and just drink the water, and they would fast and relax in nature. Of course, when they burned all the books and they closed down all the spas, again, that was part of the introduction of pharmaceuticals and the pharmaceutical companies coming into play. But a lot of these doctors and a lot of this information literally said that, and if you can still do the calculation today, you can take foods and calculate the calories and look at how much exercises you're doing. And my estimate is 70 to 80% of your total daily energy expenditure is spent, or the amount of energy your body has is spent breaking down food and trying to metabolize the food and trying to utilize the nutrients of food, and that's as shocking, because if you think about it and you calculate it out and you say 70% of the energy that I'm going to have for the whole day, the energy that I'm going to have to think, the energy that I'm going to have to exercise, the energy that I'm going to have to do anything that I want to do, 70% of it can be utilized on just one meal, Darrell. Like just one meal can take 70% of your energy to break down, because we're not chewing our food to a liquid before we swallow it. We're eating way too much in each meal. And you have people that are consuming 3, 4, 5, 6 meals a day, and alcohol on top of that, and colas, and artificial sweeteners, and all of the things that the liver's having to process and everything else. So the accumulation, that's why everybody's tired, sick, unhealthy, because we're eating too much and we don't have enough energy to break down all of the foods that we're consuming, and not too many people. And I'm just saying I mean, you and I and people in our field and people that are listening probably are a lot healthier than the majority of the people out there. But on average, I'm talking about the general population, and it's starting to happen all over the world, actually.
Well, if I can say something, and people can take it or leave it, but corporations don't have any blood. They don't have a beating heart. They don't have any feelings. And whether you believe it or not, I think corporations are like a fireplace where, you put the logs in to heat up the fire. Corporations use people. They just eat them up. They eat them up to just fuel the corporations. And then we won't go into the whole conspiracy thing, but you have to understand something. God created us. We were created to create. And we're not creating our own lives with our own minds, and we're under the spell of corporations and the media. And when you look at it, that the majority rules, right? So the majority rules, and so if you take a look where the majority is going, when we know that 85% of the majority have autoimmune disease, okay, then we understand that everybody is on fire, and the best thing to take to a fire is what? Water.
Speaking of water and water only fasting, I mean, it dates back years and years and years. And there's lots of different types of fasting out there. I mean, so just to clear up the confusion out there's juice fasting, there's intermittent fasting, there's all different types of grape fasting, and people coming up with all different things. But what we're talking about today is water only fasting. And the definition of that is all abstinence from food, or anything that could initiate the digestive process, which would mean like some people do fasting and they do a bit of protein powder, or some do pepper, or like basically that anything that's going to come into the stomach that can stimulate the digestive process would not be considered water only fasting. Water only fasting has been mentioned. It's been used for thousands of years. It's mentioned in practically every single religious text that's ever been written. The Bible talks about fasting for 40 days. Water only fasting is, to this date, at least anything that I've been able to research, is the only rapid healing method of the body. It's the original and the only medicine, because a lot, even before prescription medication or herbal medication, people would fast. And this is also another reason why detoxification and cleansing always works, because that is kind of a method of fasting in a way. It's accumulating and detoxifying all of the chemicals and toxins that people are exposed to on a regular basis. And not only that, like you said, I mean, healing should not be hard. To reactivate the body's self-healing mechanism should be simple. I mean, God made everything simple. It's like, I'm giving you what you need. I'm giving you clean water to drink, clean air to breathe, clean food to eat, rest, relaxation, and sunlight. It's really simplicity explained. But like what you were talking about, if you don't believe and you don't have faith and you don't have hope in yourself, and you've been conditioned, and your mind has been conditioned to become a victim of a condition, that is what can neutralize or at least slow down the healing process. And that's why some people can just heal with their mind alone, right? I mean, some people can just heal their body and get in that state of love and figure out why the source of their emotional pain is, and let go, because there's always that emotional component with every type of situation that you're dealing with, negative health situation.
But wouldn't
But
you say,
for example,
wouldn't you,
in
go,
18,
go ahead.
in 1933, when Gandhi was in his 10th day of water fasting, like a lot of the religious leaders used to promote fasting, because not only does it cleanse and repair and rejuvenate the body, but it also cleanses the pineal gland. It also brings you into a more spiritual state. It brings you into more of a exploratory state of your emotions, because you start learning who you really are. You start becoming one with yourself. And that's, again, another benefit. Fasting is not only a benefit for your health, but it's also a benefit for your mind. It's also a benefit for your emotions. And when Gandhi was examined on his 10th day of water only fasting, one of the physicians, he was 64 years old at the time, one of the physicians that examined him said that his physiological state was that of a 40-year-old man. And Gandhi actually used to fast one day every single week as well. And when he was assassinated, when he was 78, and they did the autopsy on him, they said that his organs and his body and his skin and his physiological function was the age of a 40-year-old.
So what would look
1 day a week fasting, and he did 10 days a year fasting every single year.
right?
So that would make you ask the question, why are doctors not being taught fasting? Well, you already answered that earlier when you were saying there's no money in fasting, right? I mean, when you look at the conspiracy, which, yeah, you and I would have a heyday talking for a week about all the conspiracies.
Yeah, but
actually aren't conspiracies. It's actually the truth of why they're creating illness, and why they're especially now focusing on wanting all the children and the mental illnesses and prescription medications and getting you in that mental psychiatric system as well. But yeah, I mean, the reason why doctors out there aren't using fasting, well, some of them are now, is because obviously there's no money in it. They're scared. They don't understand about it. But I think that,
well, I think
you and everybody else out there, more and more more and more people are going to learn about it and understand it and learn about the benefits of it. It's just like animals, right? So you just look at an animal that gets injured in the woods or breaks a leg. All they do, and they've done studies on this too, they've caused injury or caused disease on animals to try to see what their natural response is. And their natural response is to not eat and to not drink. And their injuries heal really, really fast in the wild. And why is that? Well, let's say a deer or something or a rabbit injures their leg or breaks their leg. They literally go into a meditative state in a safe place, or at least as safe as they can find. And they have no food. They do dry fasting. Dry fasting is even more intense than water only fasting. Dry fasting is no food or water. We can talk about that a little bit too. I mean, I don't recommend people do that, but I have studied some cases where dry fasting can be extremely effective, and actually it heals the body even faster than water only fasting. But for today's conversation, we can talk about water only fasting, but that's how naturally all animals fast. And if you've ever had kids, you know that when they're growing up, I delivered both of my kids myself in my room, and I tried to listen to them because you and I have studied the natural impulse or the natural blessings that we've been given at birth. And children will naturally want to fast when they get sick. What do? We say, oh no, here, take this medication to lower your fever and, eat, try to shove food down their throat and all this other stuff. So all we're really doing is just basically getting back to nature and looking at, like you've studied the root cause of illness and you've looked at all of these different chemicals and toxins and how affect the body. And that's why you're Doc of Detox, because you know the root cause and you know it all stems from education and detoxifying people and giving people the tools they need to reactivate their body's self-healing mechanism.
If I can just bring something in, I want to go back just a little bit. So what we're stating here, and I think you'll agree with me, is that health is a lifestyle. It's not a commercial break. It's not where you cleanse. What the majority of the population does that are so-called into a health program, they will wait until they feel like crap because they're full of that, because they allow themselves to be full of toxins. And it's like, oh, it's time to cleanse because I feel so terrible. When what I think you teach, and I know I teach, is that you need to create that perfect day. You need to create a lifestyle change, like you were talking about Gandhi, doing 1 day a week, and then he would do a 10-day fast at least once a year. So I think what we need to do is people need to understand that the only way that you're going to have permanent health, all right, and then fall asleep and then leave this planet without being in pain the last 10, 12 years, is if you have a lifestyle that actually goes in that direction. And when you were talking about doctors and why they don't do certain things, you know what? I don't mean to be like this, but doctors aren't in health. So medical doctors aren't in most of them, like for the majority, for what their foundational training is, it has nothing to do with health. So when we're trying to get really complexed about why the doctor's not listening or why the doctor's not giving us any take action information, well, they're programmed the way they're programmed. And you got to understand, if you're going to go to a doctor, for most of the time, not all of them, you're going for a 911 crisis, or you're going because you need to numb out the pain and you can't deal with your emotional crisis, or you can't deal with your physical crisis. And most of that, I think, boils down to that, we just haven't been taught to honor, respect, and love ourselves enough to do it. I mean, because we know the subconscious rules us. That's why the biggest problem people have about fasting is they think they're going to die.
And listen, all that information was put out there on purpose. I mean, some of the things that work, the most effective things that work are the things that are challenged and ridiculed the most. So if you condition someone's mind to believe that if they skip a meal or if they don't eat for a day, they're going to die, then eventually it's like the 100th monkey phenomenon. Everybody starts to believe it and believe it and believe it and believe it. It just goes to show you how they can change a society over time. But, due to people like us that are coming out there, that are bringing all this information out there, people are aggravated right now. I talk to kids that have watched their grandparents die on medications. They've watched their parents die before their grandparents on medications in the medical system. You're starting to get senators, legislators now that are contacting me wanting to know what we can do to change the medical system, that are into natural medicine, that are doing detox, that are learning about this. So we're starting to get educated people that are just now starting to enter the government system. They're asking, what can we do about GMO foods? What can we do about geoengineering? What can we do about prescription medications? I mean, all of these things are actually starting to happen. So there's actually, some good things that are taking place. And I think people in general are starting to wake up, but there's, that's because you've been getting this information out. It's because I've been getting it out. Many people have been getting it out, and it's starting to spread and spread and spread. So going back to water only fasting, people usually say what they one question they ask, like you said, is, so aren't you going to die when you start water fasting? Like, what happens during a water fasting? If you look back in history, water fasting was used and it was promoted as a rest phase. Like, basically, you're supposed to take time out of your year. Most of the time, it was a certain period out of every single year where you would focus on yourself. It was a physiological vacation. It wasn't a vacation that you take with your family, but it was a vacation for you. And during that vacation, you would go on a water only fast. Usually a group of people would do it. I mean, it was a certain time of year. They still say that in certain religions, but it's, even fasting has gone, nobody's really doing it the way that they were supposed to do it and have done it in the past. And people say, well, what exactly happens when you start going on a water fast? So what happens is you just start drinking purified water. You drink distilled water, you drink a pure spring water. You can mix the two. You can, add in some hydrogen water in there. You and I have talked about adding different types of nano mineral or ormus type minerals into the water, stuff like that aren't going to activate the digestive system. I was very intrigued with what you've told me and the research that you've done on that. The fact of the matter, Darrell, is there's nobody out there besides Dr. Alan Goldhammer and just a few medically supervised fasting clinics that are actually even trying new things or that are doing things like this. So, I mean, there's a big opportunity for research in the fasting industry to look for ways to improve it, look for ways to modify it, look for ways to...
Well, absolutely. And right now I've got over 50 people on a fast that I'm monitoring right now. So, and they're all doing, some of them are doing different things. It depends where they're at emotionally, where they're at physically, okay, where their faith is at, where their belief is at for themselves. And you know what? But I want to get them all into the water, and we will eventually get there. But it's like, some people can jump right in. Some people can only stick their toe in. And then, and because I've been doing it like you for so long, you start learning that you can use other elements to not trick a water fast, but to help a water fast even work better. Long as it doesn't, like you said, trigger the digestive tract, then you're on track.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So what a lot of people get freaked out around day 3 or so, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about what happens to the body, and going back to what you were saying about, I think I'm going to die. So what happens when you start drinking water only is usually the first 72 hours is when you start depleting your stored glycogen in your body. And you start shifting into what's called ketosis, so your body starts shifting into producing ketones to use for fuel. And ketones, when you start producing ketones, your ketones will go to where your fat tissue is, because your fat is a good source of fuel and energy. So instead of using glycogen, you start shifting into ketones for your fuel. And right around that 72-hour mark, it can, depending on how healthy you are, Darrell, you made a great point, and this is something that I've noticed for 20 years, is everybody is different. Everybody's different, has a different physiology. Everybody's diet can be different depending on their regions. Everybody's lifestyle is different. Everybody's environment is different. Because if you think about it, it's really your environment that causes disease. Your environment meaning what kind of foods you eat, what you drink, and then also the environment in which you live. How toxic is your home, your office, the people you hang out with, the amount of stressors, how much you watch TV. I mean, all of those things factor in. But what happens around day 4, and usually you have those jitters when your glucose starts to fall down. Everybody knows how they feel whenever, oh, my sugar's low. My sugar's low. I'm starting to feel weak. I'm starting to feel dizzy. I'm starting to feel low energy. But not too many people have rode that out. When I first started doing fasting, I can remember the first time, and when my energy started to get low, my glycogen started to get low, and I just sat on the couch and just rested. In about an hour, that feeling goes away and your energy starts coming up again.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're taught to freak out, not ride it out.
Exactly.
And there's no money in you riding it out.
That's a perfect example of what happens. But if you just ride it out, it's just like a 30-minute ride out. Now, you might, in the first 3 days, you might have a few, multiple 30-minute ride out periods. But usually around day 4, your body's glucose levels are down, and you start to feel a little bit better. And that's when your body shifts into, when you start producing ketones for fuel, that's when your body starts shifting into what's called autophagy phase, or a stem cell production phase. And autophagy is explained or defined as when your body starts to decompose and burn and attack any tissues or cells that are diseased, damaged, inflamed, aging, or dead. So our body naturally eliminates, we have millions and millions of dead cells every single day that are eliminated. But when your digestive, talking back about the energy that you need, right? We were talking about digestion can consume one meal can consume 70% of your energy every single day. So think about it if you didn't eat any meals a day. So all of your energy stores now, when the body doesn't have to focus on digestion, start like millions of Pac-Men inside your system, start attacking all of your abnormal, damaged, dead cells, anything that is impure, any type of inferior materials, toxic accumulations, tumors, abscesses, abnormal fat deposits. Your body starts going into this phase where it actually starts rejuvenating and regenerating and starts healing and producing good, natural stem cells. And at around day 4 or 5, your body also, this is another question that comes up all the time is, oh, I'm just going to lose all kinds of muscle mass when I do this. What happens when people juice fast or do other things where the digestive system is still active, you might lose muscle mass. You might have some atrophy of your muscle mass. The studies that you can review online of water-only fasting, around day 4, your body actually starts producing growth hormone and testosterone and starts balancing your hormones out to maintain the muscle mass and the lean tissue. I've talked to people and studied people that have done up to 30-day, 40-day fasts that have done muscle mass and muscle density tests before, and they've only lost maybe a quarter pound of muscle mass in that amount of time. People think that they're just going to waste away and they're going to lose all their muscle, but it's just the opposite actually that happens with water-only fasting. Your hormones are one of the first things after 4 days that starts balancing. Your growth hormone shoots up like when you were a kid by day 4 or day 5. And your body starts to become in this rebuilding phase, and it's basically biological recycling. As a matter of fact, there was a study done in Chicago, at the University of Chicago. It was done by a guy named Dr. Carlson, and two doctors. One was Dr. Carlson and Dr. Kunde. And they wanted to see what happened if you put a 40-year-old guy that was fairly unhealthy on a 14-day water fast. And at the end of the 14-day water fast of this guy, the 40-year-old guy, his tissues were in the same physiological condition as those of a 17-year-old boy. A 40-year-old guy on a 14-day water fast, an unhealthy 40-year-old guy that did a 14-day water fast, so you can pull the study up online. His condition, his physiological condition, after just 14 days, he reversed his age to his physiological condition was that of a 17-year-old boy. So that's, I talk about how fast things can go with fasting. And there are studies that you could find out there. As a matter of fact, there was another study by the University of Chicago that took old, dying flatworms that were about to die, and the professors over there fasted these worms for months. I think it was 2.5 months, until they were these long flatworms, and by the time he was done, they were old, about to die, and he fasted them all the way down to they were just tiny little worms, and it was 2.5 months, and then he started feeding them again, and as they grew back to their normal size, he noticed that they were just as young from a physiological standpoint as they were when they were born. And in his report, he concluded that partial starvation inhibits the aging process, and that the worms were actually brought back from an advanced age to the beginning of their life. I mean, so that's the kind of things that we're starting to see now. And just recently, actually, and about this study at USC, scientists completed a study where fasting as little as 72 hours of water-only fasting flips the regenerative switch, right at that 72-hour mark, that 3-day mark, going into the 4th day mark. I think I call it like a phase right before you go into the autophagy phase, around 4 days. But the scientists at USC found that just 72 hours flipped the switch and prompted stem cells to be created, and brand new white blood cells were created. And their conclusion was that 72 hours of fasting literally regenerated the immune system, the entire immune system, even in the elderly. Now, I know you've been looking at different things, and you continue your research all the time like I do. Have you ever found anything that can regenerate the entire immune system in 72 hours, including in the elderly?
No, that's impossible. It's the only thing that'll do it. And if I can say one other thing, do you know the one thing that I really noticed with fasting, and this is not talked about much, but how people actually get faith and belief back about how amazing their human body is, and people have actually forgot that the body will take care of it. That it will heal itself, put under the right conditions, which we're talking about right now. But the biggest gift that I see that fasting gives people is it gives them back their power. They didn't realize that they had that power. They didn't realize that they were powerful enough to actually cure the incurable. And guess what? Go inward and not ever go outward for another thing.
All of the ancient texts that talk about fasting, the healing that happens from within in the regenerative process is going within. I mean, fasting started by the monks and by spiritual masters dating back in the Himalayas that would go into the caves, and they would do dry fasting where they wouldn't even eat or drink anything. And it was all for spiritual progression It was all to go within. It was to go within and understand who you are and understand the power that you have. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because talking to people and evaluating and looking at the research that's been done, the transformation that happens not only in the physical body, it's not just the physical body, but it's the mental and the spiritual body too. Fasting is the only form of medicine that addresses every single cause factor, because your physical body will show you and give you the pain and the suffering and the outside area, which people have forgotten to listen to, by the way. Like you mentioned, people are not listening to their bodies giving them signals. When you have a headache, it's your body beating you on the head going, hello, I'm giving you a headache so you can listen to me and you can start looking at what you're doing. But they're taught to not listen to their body, but to run to the doctor and to put their faith in somebody else instead of putting their faith in themselves. So fasting is not only, look, I'm just going to do this for my physical body or to induce stem cell production or to induce autophagy. Fasting is supposed to be done so you can be in a quiet, restful state, and you can go within and you can learn about yourself and you can become one with yourself and you can become more spiritual and you can heal the soul, the mind, and the physical body.
Yeah, when you actually take a look at this and when you start to understand this, you get it. You understand that if you take the load off the physical, you're finally feeding the spiritual, which is actually, some people would call it energy body. Some people don't like the word spiritual. Some people don't like the word spirit. Some people don't, they can handle energy body or they can handle energy grid. Call it whatever you want. But until you really feed that part of you, you can't heal the physical. And then the other thing is guess what? You can only grow consciously, and you can't grow consciously unless you're going to grow spiritually. There.
Yes. I mean, you couldn't have said it better on that one. You know, getting back to what people were usually say, well, fasting isn't safe. Fasting isn't safe. There was a guy in 1973. His name was, they called him just Mr. AB. He was a 27-year-old male, and he fasted 382 days under the supervision of a group of researchers at Scotland University. And this is the longest fast that's ever been recorded. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because he wasn't doing water only the whole time. He started his fast at 456 pounds. That's how much he weighed. He was going to do it actually for weight loss. And I know you wanted to talk about fasting for different types of conditions, but we can definitely get into that later on. But I wanted to talk about the safety. He ended up he was down to 180 pounds after 382 days. He lost 276 pounds. What he did, though, was he consumed water and vitamin supplement mix and yeast for the first 10 months. Only a tiny amount, though. Like every day, he only took a little bit of a vitamin, a little bit of yeast, and a little bit of water, and lots of water, actually. And he took a potassium supplement on day like 90 to 160. And then he took a sodium supplement from days. They measured, he was low. That's a whole nother subject we can talk about what your blood work looks like and I always say, why not to really look at any lab works when you're fasting or even for a couple of weeks after you're fasting, because when your body's in an autophagy and it's breaking down and it's chewing up all that, your lab works can go haywire and you can just have all different kinds of things coming out in the blood and through the kidneys and all kinds of other stuff.
And then you can get yourself into real big trouble, because when the doctor that's looking at the blood work doesn't understand about fasting, he thinks you're dying, and then he rushes you up to emergency, and then they're taking everything and throwing everything at you because you're a 911 crisis.
Yes, exactly. And plus, when you start seeing things fall down to certain levels, you start creating fear again.
Yeah.
You start worrying again. I mean, so that you want to avoid all that at any cost. But basically what they said with this guy in Scotland is that he successfully completed a 382-day fast on pretty much nothing but water. And he ended up maintaining his weight actually too after 5 years. Um, Interesting that according to medical science, we'll talk a little bit about diabetes because a lot of people are fasting for diabetes, but this is just a side note that popped into my head. If you look at your blood glucose levels, if your blood glucose levels fall below 70 milligrams per deciliter, it is considered a medical emergency. Anywhere between, let's say, 40 and lower, according to modern medicine, you can go into a diabetic coma and you can die. The lowest that my blood glucose ever got when I was water only fasting was 38 mgs per deciliter. Now, if anyone, because I was checking my glucose and my ketones every single day, if any doctor would have seen my blood glucose levels at 38, and by the way, that day I was feeling great, I was energetic, they would have been mesmerized that I wasn't in a diabetic coma or that I wasn't dead or that why I wasn't in the emergency room, filling up on all kinds of glucose, dextrose, by the way, IVs. So, fear is a big part to play in understanding the health of the body and being confident in understanding that you can heal yourself and that you have the power to heal yourself. And there was actually a doctor in Sweden. He was one of the most distinguished biochemists. His name was Dr. Ragnar Berg. He was actually a Nobel Prize winner, and he was a big authority on nutrition. And he came out with a statement that years ago that said that anyone can fast a long time, and that he studied people that fasted over 100 days. And he was really big on the fear component. And he said, we have no need to fear that we will die of hunger. Now, with that being said, though, I do always recommend, like you, that no one ever jumps into just water-only fasting without evaluating. A lot of these studies and a lot of these people that I'm quoting were from the 1900s. We have different environment now. We have more toxic air now. We have more people on prescription medications now. But there was also another study by a professor named Carlson that stated a well-exercised, healthy woman or man can live from 50 to 75 days without food. But he followed that up by saying only if they're not exposed to severe cold, they avoid physical work and stress, and they maintain emotional calmness. And all of the, that's why whenever I'm talking about fasting and whenever you're talking about fasting, it's extremely important to take that physiological vacation, to be in a calm state of mind, to incorporate meditation into your fasting program. And anybody and everybody that I've ever talked to that's gone through long-term fasting, short-term fasting, or any other type of fasting says that's extremely important. The last fast that I did, which was an 18-day water-only fast, I tried to work out and to work. I was starting the experiment saying, can somebody fast for 18 days, water only, and work and exercise and do all of their normal daily activities while they're doing it? That was what I wanted to research on myself. But after 6 days of me going in and realizing that everybody was right when they all say that you need to conserve the energy that you have for autophagy and stem cell production and cleaning and repairing all your tissues and not burn your extra energy doing anything. You should be resting, doing sun gazing in the morning, going outside, doing grounding stuff so where you can ground with the earth, being in nature, all of that makes a huge difference. I tried to go against just to see, well, I know what I get is people saying, well, I don't have time to take 6 days off. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to take care of myself. I want something fast. Can I fast when I'm and still work at the same time? I do know of a guy that fasted for 21 days and worked the whole time too. And he did get some positive results from it. But would I recommend it? No, because that takes away, like you said, it takes away from you spending time with your own body.
And if I can say this, it's, you know what? Fasting is about living in honor for the first time, truly living in honor. And, you know, when people say, well, I could never take 6 days to fast, well, I'll tell you something. You'll be taking 6 days to fast when you're going over a cliff and when you get yourself into trouble. You know what? Everything is about priority, and everybody can take the time to fast. It's just that, guess what? Their subconscious brain, everybody's subconscious brain rules them. My subconscious brain rules me. It's 90% of me. But do the majority of the beliefs, are they dipped in self-love, honor, respect, and that, I need to do that if I'm going to live the life that everybody says I could have had, which most people will never experience because they've been programmed not to believe that they have 6 days. You know what? When I'll have somebody pull up in a Mercedes Benz and tell me that they can't afford something that's $100, right? And I'll have somebody come into me that, like even last week, a mother, she's got 2 kids, she has no support. And she says, whatever it takes financially, I want my son well, and I will do that. So understand something. Everything is about thought. We were created by something that was unlimited, which is called God. And we were created in the vision of that. And we can create whatever we want. And we just make up anything that goes against us having it all and being all. We just made that up. So.
Couldn't agree more. One thing that I will recommend that everybody does before they start and jump into a water only fast, and I know you and I have talked about this, and you agree with me on this, is preparing yourself for a water only fast is vital. Is it necessary? I would say that it's very necessary unless you're in a severe case or something and you're going to be medically supervised. There's 3 things that I've evaluated looking back at how fasting was done thousands of years ago. And usually they would take people through 2, 3 a day, a week, 3-week preparation period. Nowadays, I feel it's very vital to do that because people are addicted to food these days. They're addicted to sugar. They're addicted to alcohol. They're addicted to caffeine. They're addicted to, so many different things. And fasting can be really, really hard to go through if you don't prepare yourself initially. So what I've found works the best for people that want to try water only fasting, and it's a lot safer for people to go into water only fasting, is to do detoxification and cleansing before they start their water only fast. What I recommend people do is they do a really good intestinal and gut health cleanse. And I had the privilege of being 4th in line to Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, his student was a guy named Arthur Matthews, who wrote a book called The Wall of Light. And Arthur Matthews' student was a guy named George Freebot. And I was George Freebot's student on oxygen therapies, ozone therapies. I've been into ozone and oxygen type technology for years and years and years. And I'll tell you a story that was told to me through the lineage there. And I still study Tesla's work. And Tesla was like us. He believed very strongly in detoxification. You hear about Tesla and you hear about all of his electrical stuff that he was doing, but Tesla had a lot to do with healing agents as well. Before Tesla died, he had a vision and he saw the future. And what he saw in the future was that we were bombarded by chemicals and toxins. And he saw that Tesla, obviously, we know he was a visionary and he could see the end of the future. He saw, and Arthur Matthews explained about all these visions. Tesla was kind of like an Edgar Cayce in a way too, and he would explain all these visions he had to Arthur Matthews. he saw the root cause of all illness in the future. And he told Arthur, and he told a guy named Eugene Bloss, that all disease is going to start in the gut. But he said it's in the gut is going to cause all of these emotional conditions to happen because the gut-brain connection is so tight. Darrell, I don't know how many times you and I have talked about this to everybody, and doctors are still, they don't get the fact that the majority of these diseases are associated with fungus, yeast, mold. Even Rife came out and said he associated the BX virus with cancer, and that every single disease has a mold and a fungus and a yeast component to it. Clean the bowel, clean and detoxify the liver, and clean all the harmful organisms out of the body. Because if your body's energy is focused on attacking, and you can do it while water only fasting, but remember that harmful organisms, worms, bacteria, viruses, actually the definition of a parasite, people associate it with worms, but the definition of a parasite is any organism that's harmful that lives off of a host mechanism that causes damage. And we are riddled with harmful organisms. Everybody is. That's why I recommend people do at least 1 to 2 harmful organism cleanses a year. If your body is focused during the fasting process on breaking down all that crap in the intestinal tract, if it's focused on, working and focusing the energy during the autophagy phase or more into cleaning and repairing and helping the liver, if it's focused on killing off all the harmful organisms, when you kill harmful organisms, they die inside your body. When they die, they release isopropyl alcohol, they release formaldehyde, they release formalin, they release phenols, they release all kinds of chemicals and toxic products into your system. So my recommendations and why I'm saying it's so important to detox before you start a water-only fast is so your organs in your body are prepared and functioning to a level where when you do start water-only fasting, your body's energy stores are going to be focused not on the liver and getting all the crap out of the bowel and getting rid of all the dead harmful organisms that you're killing off. Your body's energies are going to be focused more on healing, more stem cell production, and regenerating the DNA and restructuring the DNA and fixing those unacceptable patterns that you have, and you'll be able to heal the body a lot faster. Another thing that I've noticed is that, I don't know if you ever read the book Healing Codes of the Biological Apocalypse. It was a book by Leonard Horowitz years ago. And it's so true that everything happens in all geometrics, the Masaru Emoto's work on the structuring of water. Everything is in multiples of 3, 6, and 9. We've found that fasting, if you're going to be doing water fasting, do it in multiples of 3, 6, and 9s. We did testing we looked at over 300,000 liver and gallbladder cleanses, because we've done millions of those with our customers dating back 20 years. And we always found that they had the most results after the 3rd liver and gallbladder cleanse, or after the 6th liver and gallbladder cleanse, or after the 9th. I mean, everything was happening in 3, 6, and 9. So I recommend that if you're going to try water-only fasting, to do it in sections, like start with a 3-day water-only fast, and then, go for a while, and then you can do a 6-day, or then a 9-day, or a 12-day, or a 15-day, or an 18-day. That's just a little tip that we've noticed that's over the years that we've found has a more positive impact on the amount of time, because people say, well, how long should I fast? What should I start doing? Start with detoxifying the bowel, the liver, and the harmful organisms. And then, you're great at working with people through that too, and guiding them through. That's another thing that's missing. That's a good point, is that I also think that they should have a coach, someone to guide them through, someone that could, like you said, you have 50 people doing a fasting program right now. That's awesome, because they have somebody that they trust. They have somebody that can walk them through. They have somebody that can answer the questions. It gives them confidence. And, health is really a loss of poor health is another loss of self-confidence. So that's great that you're able to do that along with your clients and to help them along the way. There's a lot of people out there that are just dropping everything and they're just starting a water only fast, and they might have complications, or they might get scared and run to the hospital or run to their doctor's office, and then the doctor says, well, that's why you shouldn't be doing that, and instilling fear into those individuals.
Absolutely. And like that's why we're kind of along the same parallel, is it's all about strategy. And once you have strategy, then people can actually create a discipline for themselves. Like, we have what we call the perfect day, and I'll run them through the perfect day for 33 days if they've never done a fast before. And then I'll start introducing them into the fast, because like you said, let's bring up their energy, let's lower their toxic level. And everything is about frequency, and they wouldn't be so riddled with parasites if their frequency was brought up, because you got to vibrate low to bring those low critters in. And you know what? Everything, when somebody says, "Oh, I've got fungus or I've got parasites," remember something: if you've got one, you've got them all. They all come to the parasite party.
Yeah. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
One other thing that I'd like to touch on is that I've recognized that people do wrong. There was a death that happened about 70 years ago. Fasting is unbelievably safe, by the way. I mean, I can only think of one death that happened, and it's because they didn't break their fast properly. It was a guy who fasted for 40 days, and when he broke his fast, he ate multiple white bread, meatball sandwiches, and potatoes, and he shocked his system and he died. It's very important to learn and understand how to break a fast properly, because when you shut down the digestive tract for so long, the rule of thumb, and what everybody talks about out there, and I've experienced this myself, is however long you fast, take half that amount of time to break the fast. So if you fast for 18 days, you need 9 days to break the fast properly. Now, there's many different methods out there on how to break the fast, but really what you want to do is you just want to eat a small amount of food. You can even start with juices. You can start with green juices. Usually what I recommend, like on an 18-day fast, for the first 3 days after breaking the fast, just nothing but raw fruit, chewed until it's a liquid in your mouth before you swallow it, or blend it up, or however you want to liquefy it, and slowly start training your digestive system to get back into the action of digestion again. Some people just, you can look, I've watched a bunch of videos online just trying to understand what people are doing when they're fasting. They fast for 15 days and then they order a pizza from Domino's on the 16th day, and they eat a pizza, and then they're wiped out, and it just completely shocks the system. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. Use fasting as a method because when you fast for a long period of time, you have a completely new appreciation for food. I mean, that's another thing that happens during water only fasting, is you really appreciate food, and food will completely taste different because you reset all your taste buds, everything. Like, I remember after my last 18-day water only fast, and when I broke my fast, I had a small piece of watermelon from the heart. And I took it in my mouth, and I could almost I did feel the spiritual energy of that watermelon. It's hard to describe, and people that fast for a long period of time and they understand that spiritual experience and that connection to nature that happens when you water fast, you feel the life in the food, and it almost talks to you in a way. And you go through this taste profile as you chew it. It's like the first thing you feel is the texture, and the next thing you feel is the all these different, I could feel like 100 different, I felt like it was bursting with light inside of me. And I could feel not only the energy, not only the earth it grew from, almost the emotions of the watermelon and the taste. It just, as I kept it in my mouth, I kept going through different taste profiles, like 8 or 9 different taste profiles. And then I swallowed it and I could feel it going in, and I could feel the energy going into my system. Who has ever been able to experience that? I mean, you know, we look, the way that we look at food, the way that we taste food, the way we shove food in our mouth, the way that we mix foods, you know, foods aren't meant to be mixed together like that. I mean, we're not meant to eat a steak and a baked potato in the same meal. Our digestive enzymes get all thrown off, and then dessert and drink wine and then this and that and all these different things. It's when you break a fast and you start introducing one food or one fruit at a time, or just green juice, you have a whole new appreciation for food. And another thing that happens when you fast is you realize how much time you have, because your day is not revolving around, okay, I just woke up, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Oh, and then 2 hours later, oh, what are our lunch plans? What am I going to eat for lunch? And then 2 hours later, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner? What are we going to do for dinner? I was like, you know, it's almost like time stands still when you're water only fasting, and you're like, when your mind is not thinking and revolving around food all the time, you start going, and your mind's not focusing on the outside things, and you start focusing on the inside things. I mean, meditation, I'm a big believer in meditation. I try to meditate for 2 hours every single day. I've been doing that for 15 years. I've studied all of the different masters in India and all the philosophies. I've been studying different religions and all that since I was 12. I was fascinated with that. I'm a big believer in meditation and the power of meditation. And I'm also a big believer in the power of the mornings, because so many people first grab their cell phone in the morning. So my morning looks like when I wake up at 4 a.m. and I go through meditation, and then my kids do meditation, and then we do a spiritual development, which could just be anything, whatever you think feeds the soul. You're just feeding your soul for 30 minutes with whatever you want to do. If you want to listen, whatever your religion is, if you want to read books on how you can grow spiritually, you know, we have a session every morning, 30-minute spiritual development session. Then we do a personal development session after that. No, this is how you start your day, is how you start everything. And how much sleep you get too, actually, is how you end your day. Also has a big part to do with that, you know, not eating late at night, going to bed early and getting the amount of sleep and sleeping through the night, and not having your cell phones and all that next to you. But fasting also teaches you so many other things about yourself, and about how you know, schools these days do not teach kids anything that they really need to know. They teach you, history and all this stuff, but they don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They don't teach you how to communicate effectively. They don't teach you about your own body. They don't teach you about spirit, you know, who you are as a person. They don't teach you any leadership skills. They don't teach you about kindness. They don't teach you about compassion. They don't teach you how to recognize love. I mean, you know, we're kind of the ones that are out there trying to teach everybody this. So it's interesting when you do go through a water fast, and, you know, the things you learn about yourself, the things that you've been conditioned in society to rely on and to think about all the time are gone. So, you know, you start thinking about yourself, and you start thinking about the things that you can do to improve yourself. I recommend that you do a fast every single year, whether it's a 6-day water only fast. Dr. Seyfried at, you know, he says that 7 to 10 day fast every single year will reduce your chances of getting degenerative disease and cancer by 99%. He's a professor at Boston College. He's been researching. He spoke at TTAC as well. You know, Dr. Seyfried.
Yes.
in all of his research that he's done. 1 7-day water fast a year will reduce your chances of cancer by 99%. I mean, what else out there can do that? So, I mean, some people I know do 1 24-hour fast a week. Just depends on what you want to do. But I am also a big believer in intermittent fasting. And that's just reducing how much you eat. Basically, that's all it is. Skip one meal every single day. You're going to be doing your body a lot of good. There's thousands of studies on the effects of intermittent fasting. Do the 18-6. You know, personally, I've tried many different forms of intermittent fasting and, you know, done 18 hours of fast every single day, 6 hours of eating. For me, I switched. I used to go all the way till 11 or 12 noon every single day without eating, and then stop eating at 6 p.m. I've found, though, after the last few years, that actually what works better for me is to eat in the morning because I'm an O positive blood type. And then I stop eating earlier in the afternoon because I go to bed earlier. So for me, that works better. Like you said, everybody is different. Something that might work for somebody might not work for somebody else. And you have to find what works for you.
Yeah, if you can get connected to water and you can get connected to your breath, you're going to find out that you're a lot more than you thought you were. And if you can do water fasting, guess what? The emotional toxins that you're going to be dealing with and the emotional addictions that you're going to be able to actually, you know, just sit back and take a look at. And they'll probably melt away just like the crystallization and the rest of the stuff or the toxins in your body as well.
I know that you've been dealing a lot with endocrine disrupting chemicals and hormone disrupting chemicals. And when you and I were kids, I don't even think fertility clinics existed. And what we've seen now is we have a fertility clinic on every single corner. We have sterility, which is running rampant. All of the infertility that's happening. Let me tell you that water-only fasting, in 14 days of water-only fasting, we're seeing menstrual cycles completely restored, PCOS completely gone, sterile marriages that people are out there paying $250,000 for IVF treatments at a maximum, let's say. I don't recommend you do fasting, you know, back to back. 14-day water fast, probably 60 to 70% of the couples. It's just, you know, people think it's the females, but it's the males that are being affected. Their sperm counts are low. They have no sperm vitality. Basically, they're sterile. Sterile marriages that haven't been able to conceive for years are able to conceive in 14-day water-only fast. If not the first 14, they take another couple months off, do another 14 days, take a couple months off. You should take about 2 months off in between because your body is still going to be healing for 6 months after a 9-day or longer water-only fast. It's just like stem cells. So if you go in right now, stem cells are the new big thing. If you get a stem cell treatment, your stem cells are still going to be producing 6 months later. So water-only fasting continues to benefit you. You continue like a 9-day or an 18-day water-only fast, your body will continue healing itself for 6 months after that. Unless, obviously, you go back to your old ways and start drinking and all that, you know, and you haven't made any lifestyle changes. But one of the best ways to balance hormones, you know, because you also have all these hormone clinics everywhere that I've found, is water-only fasting, and for sterility and for infertility. And listen, before anybody wanted to get pregnant years ago, they would go through a cleansing and detoxification and a water fasting. That's why they would try to conceive after the 40-day water fast, because why wouldn't you want to clean and repair all of your cells before you try to get pregnant? So, you know, going through a detox program like you have, and then, you know, for anybody, if you're working with infertility or if you're working with, you know, all these individuals that want to have a clean, healthy baby, cleaning the bowel, cleaning the liver, cleaning the harmful organisms.
Well, you know what? Clean the oven out, okay, before you decide to bake the cake. Clean the oven. Yeah.
So there's multiple things. Like the deal with fasting is the body will pick the area that needs the most repair. So you might be suffering from asthma, or you might be suffering from arthritis or something, and you might go through a fast and your arthritis might still be there, or your asthma might still be there. Well, that just means that that wasn't the highest priority that needed to be fixed within the body. That's why I always say, do all these other cleanses first, because, that usually means the body was focusing on healing the bowel, healing the liver, healing all the other stuff.
Or the
And
heart or the kidneys.
didn't have the time and effort to focus on what you needed to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. You may be feeling a symptom somewhere else in your body, but it's just the bell ringing because something else is on fire. And that's the whole problem here, is that we're all symptomatic people. We look at the symptom and then we go out to destroy the symptom and never, ever uncover the cause.
One of my favorite stories, actually, before we go, was a guy, it was a doctor, and he did a water fast in 1972. His name was Dr. Corrales. And the reason why I love this story is because it brings up the fact that you talk about all the time, which is emotions and love and everything. He was on his 17th day of a water-only fast, and all of a sudden he woke up in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he had this super strong desire to go running. And that's usually not recommended to do during a water-only fast. And he knew that because he was a doctor that actually prescribed water-only fasting, and he was going through it again, and he was testing it out, and he could not go back to sleep. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he tried. He knew he wasn't supposed to go running. He had this vision in his mind. He's like, go running, go running. And he was like, well, that breaks all the rules of water-only fasting. I don't want to get up and go running at 1 o'clock in the morning. He tried to go back to sleep. The urge came again, woke him up. Go running, go running. His desire was so strong, he actually got up. It was cold. He went out and he started running. He ran for 4 hours straight. He explains his experience. He said, after about 4 hours, I lost all the gravity in my body. I felt like I was floating on air. I felt like I had no weight at all. And he said, I had no fatigue. I was energetic. By that time, it was like, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And people were starting to wake up, and he started passing people by, I guess other runners or something. And he said that after 4 hours, he saw this hue or this aura around everybody. And he saw this hue and aura around nature. He said, like, the trees, he could start seeing and like feeling the trees and the grass and everything around him. And he felt this undeniable state of love. He was like eager to greet and go hug the trees and go hug the people that passed him by. He felt exceptionally happy. And his only wish at that point in time was like, how can I transmit what I'm feeling, this wonderful feeling right now, and experience to others? And he said what he got out of that experience is that love and happiness is the product or the result of perfect health and the result of a harmoniously functioning body, mind, and soul. A harmoniously functioning body, mind, and soul. And on the 17th day of his water-only fast, after his 4-hour run, he saw it. It was like this experience that he had. He felt like he was floating. And that was the message that came to him. And so when you're the only other doctor that I know out there that talks so much about that harmonious functioning of the body, mind, and soul that he experienced on the night of his 17th day of water-only fasting. And it just goes back to prove the point that The ultimate goal that we're trying to teach people and help people achieve is the reactivation of their body's self-healing mechanism, the product of perfect health, and the harmonious merging of and functioning of the body, mind, and soul.
And when you do this, that is the only time that you can truly experience what we would call enlightenment.
Exactly. That's the word right there, enlightenment. That was what he was explaining exactly. Enlightenment. Understanding yourself and understanding the energetic signatures of everything around you, feeling the love of the other people, feeling the love of the environment, almost feeling, you know, godlike in a way, because that's, you know, that's what all the religious texts say. It's like the kingdom of heaven is within, you know, so it's, you know, that, you
You're
know, that's what people have, that's what's been lost from society that we're trying to get back. So water only fasting can be extremely powerful in a way that you can learn so much. And that was his story. I just wanted to share that with you. That was one of the, that's the most powerful story that I've ever read, because he was like us. He was a researcher. He believed in detoxification. He believed in cleansing, and he was searching. He was a seeker like we are. You know, we continue to seek for the truth, seek for the answers. Everybody should be a seeker, actually. You should always try to improve yourself. Even if you improve yourself 1% every single day, by the end of the year, you've improved yourself 365%.
absolutely. But
So,
listen, talking about stories, don't you have a new story coming out? A new book?
no, I'm really excited about this new book, Darrell. Thanks a lot. We're going to be giving away copies to all of the listeners. If you just click the link below, we're going to be giving out this free book. It's called The Power of Fasting.
Yep.
It's going to go through many different methods. It's going to explain who should fast, how long you should fast, how you can break the fast. It's going to go over clinical research on fasting. It's going to give you every single thing you need to know about fasting. That's why we named the book The Power of Fasting, the health benefits of fasting. And it's going to be available for a short period of time. So make sure you click the link below. You're going to get a free copy, PDF copy of the new revolutionary book, The Power of Fasting.
And understand something. You know, people go, you're going to get my new revolutionary. Well, guess what? This is revolutionary. And you need to grasp that. You know, there's going to be no practitioner on this planet that is going to unleash the power of healing like fasting does. And why don't you learn from someone who's basically lived it, breathes it, and knows it? So bring it home. Bring the most powerful part of healing home. Click the link below and download this. I know you don't have time for it. Well, you will have time when there's people that are sick in your family, and when you're sick of spending tens of thousands of dollars and you want to unleash the power that you were given when you were created. Okay? So don't forget to click the link below. So, Dr. Group, is there anything else that you would like to share with people?
Just know, like you said, that you have the power within to heal, and you are your own practitioner. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. It's bringing the power of knowledge and faith and hope into yourself so you can feel the confidence level that you have and understand that you do have the power to be your own practitioner. You do have the power to heal yourself. And you do know that healing is in simplicity. Everything is in simplicity. And I just want to thank you, Darrell, for having me on. I want to thank you for all of the people you've helped in your lifetime and all the success that you've had, and bringing forth the truth, Darrell, bringing forth the truth of detox and addressing the root cause. I mean, addressing the root cause of disease, and all of the things that you've done for humanity. So thanks for having me on. Thanks for understanding and promoting fasting, because you are still one of the only other doctors that's been doing fasting for a long period of time, 20 years, that's been promoting detox and fasting for a long period of time. So I appreciate you having me on and appreciate everything that you do as well.
Well, you have touched more lives than you know, Dr. Group. And I want everybody to know too, that if you want to see Dr. Group and myself, we're actually going to be lecturing together in Anaheim, California. And it's around the first week of October. And we're going to be lecturing for TTAC, the Truth About Cancer Symposium. Okay, and there's going to be like 2,500 to 3,000 people there. And there's going to be probably around 250,000 people around the world watching this live. And you're not going to miss this. You can't miss this. And if you can get there to Anaheim, you want to get there before the tickets sell out, okay? There's only going to be around 2,500 to 3,000 tickets. And some of the best speakers and the latest innovating things and what the best people in health in North America and even further away than that are coming to this event. And that would be October of 2019. So it's not too far away, and you need to come and play with us. And Dr. Group, I want to thank you for taking the time and being here. And I want you to come on the show again sometime, would you?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. So if you're ready to break away from the majority's way of healing, we're going to unleash the Ultimate Fasting Guide, March the 29th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do not miss this life-changing, life-saving show. And to bring it together, on April Fool's Day, no longer be fooled, schooled, or ruled, make sure you tune in on April 1st for the Ultimate Fasting Guide and the Perfect Day for the Perfect Life Q&A. Understand, like I said before, ask the right questions, get the right answers, and create the perfect day, not just for yourself, but for your family. God bless. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.